Welcome to the newest episode of Beatin' and Bangin'. I'm your host, Kyle Dalton. In today's video, we've got several interesting stories to talk about, including Denny Hamlin's remarks about Bubba Wallace and his recent performance, Kevin Harvick getting brutally honest about Hailie Deegan and the bad career move she made, and what her prospects might be in the future. Plus, Happy wasn't done and had some surprising comments about Ty Gibbs and the number 54 team. And finally, I have the latest on the Corey LaJoie Kyle Busch incident, with the Spire Motorsports driver commenting on the situation during an appearance on SiriusXM NASCAR radio, and what fans can expect to see from him in the future. However, before we get to that, let's go back to Denny Hamlin's Actions Detrimental podcast and what he had to say on Monday about Bubba Wallace and the number 23 team after the race at Pocono. Take a listen.
While it was a good point stay for the 23, they're still lacking pace. I don't know where that pace is. It's just it's head scratching a little bit that they just don't have the pace that it seems like the other JGR or 2311 Toyotas have, but they're finishing to their best ability on race day, which that's really, really good. So they're executing well, which that's half the battle. The speed stuff we can figure out, and Bubba can figure out, and the team can figure that out. So they're at least keeping themselves in the game for when they do figure that out.
Listening to Hamlin's comments and looking at Bubba's results as of late, and it makes me almost wonder if it's a motivational tactic being employed by the 2311 Racing co-owner. Wallace is in the thick of the playoff battle fighting for that last spot. He was in a similar situation a year ago, when he put together a steady run of top 15 finishes through the summer months and made it into the postseason for the first time in his Cup career. This year, the 30-year-old driver is hoping to repeat that level of consistency in the coming weeks and once again earn a berth in the playoffs. Wallace also understands that a trip to victory lane, which he hasn't experienced in 65 races, would automatically garner an invite. And in a year where 6 other drivers have snapped long winless streaks, including 3 longer than Wallace's, including Brad Keselowski at 110, Austin Cindric at 85, and most recently Alex Bowman at 80 in Chicago, it just might be a real possibility, especially if they can find that pace. Moving on to our next story and another podcast, this one hosted by Kevin Harvick. This week on his Happy Hour podcast, the Fox announcer talked about a variety of topics, including Wallace and his penalty a week earlier and the advice he gave him, but there were a couple other comments made by Harvick that got my attention. The first came when talking about the race at Pocono and Ty Gibbs suffering an expired engine, which resulted in the number 54 car finishing 27th.
I am hitting the panic button on this one, and that is the Toyota engines, because we've seen the 11 blow up, we've seen the 20 blow up, we've seen the 54 blow up.
It's quite a few.
So we've seen a number of engine issues with the Toyotas, and I think it seems sporadic, right? And so they have been at high RPM shifting racetracks that it seems like they've showed
Gateway,
up at.
Loudon, and now.
Yeah. So, but still, I would be panicked. But NBC did a great job of getting those shots of the engine expiring with the water and the oil coming out.
Yes,
of the exhaust pipes. Holy cow!
Harvick is right. Christopher Bell was battling Ryan Blaney for the win at Gateway in early June, when his engine stumbled after suffering a broken valve spring with 19 laps to go. He finished 7th. A week later at Sonoma, Denny Hamlin fell victim to a blown engine early in the race and had similar dramatic footage with smoke billowing out from his pipes. He finished dead last in 38th. And fast forward to this past weekend at Pocono. Gibbs' engine, as he described it over the team radio, grenaded on lap 132. Harvick described it as sporadic, which is accurate when looking at it from the full season perspective and 21 races. But if I'm a JGR fan, I'm more concerned because that's 3 engine issues in the last 7 races. In other words, maybe it is time to get the panic button handy. But that's not all that Harvick had to say on his podcast. He was asked about what happened with Hailie Deegan parting ways with AM Racing, and the former Stewart-Haas racing driver didn't sugarcoat what he thought was the cause of the young driver's career struggles.
I don't think that guidance and mentorship has been exactly what she needed for NASCAR. I think that the big mistake here was getting out of the Toyota development system. I don't think Ford has a great development system as far as the things that they do from ARCA all the way until you get to Cup. I don't think that they're developed. I don't think their development system, I don't even know if they have a development system. So you get put in these situations to where you don't have the resources and things that you need, like Toyota does, and Chevy doesn't do it quite as well as Toyota does, but they do it better than Ford. So I think Ford has the worst development program as far as their drivers go. I think Toyota has the best, and I think Chevy's somewhere in the middle. But getting out of that Toyota development program with all the resources, and they're willing to give time. Mm-hmm. And I think that she needed more time in the Truck Series, getting that guidance and mentorship that she needed in order to develop into what she needed to be a NASCAR race car driver. And she carries this fan base off the racetrack that, it's a big fan base. And I think that she just got pushed through too fast and wound up in the wrong development system for her to be successful. So I think the moment that she stepped outside of that Toyota development system was a bad move.
Now, I have to give Harvick some credit because he's been consistent about Deegan from the jump. What do I mean? He talked about how she was pushed through too fast on his podcast. Here's what he had to say about her in March 2019. "The thing I like about Hailie is she loves to race," he told NASCAR.com. "She's very good at talking about racing and very energetic in doing things off the racetrack. But the thing that I like the most about Hailie is that her dad, Brian, has been there, done that. And right now, this is my opinion that I voiced to both of them, is what's the hurry?" So Deegan and her team didn't heed Harvick's advice in 2019 and pushed her through the system, the wrong one according to him, and it didn't allow her to develop. So what does the future Hall of Famer think about the future of Deegan?
And I think it's going to be tough to get another chance. That's going to be the hard part.
Harvick's been right about predicting Deegan's future before. Will he be right again? Moving on to our final item for the day, and it's the latest in the Corey LaJoie Kyle Busch incident at Pocono on Sunday. Both LaJoie and Busch offered their thoughts on the matter following Sunday's race, which I showed in the last video. LaJoie expanded on what happened during his Stacking Pennies podcast before NASCAR announced on Tuesday that what happened at the Tricky Triangle was a racing deal and not worthy of a penalty. The number 7 pilot called into SiriusXM NASCAR radio on Wednesday and talked about the incident, including the comments of his team over the radio.
And something we talk about every week is aggression on restarts. And, hey, we're done cutting people breaks. And, I have got this far in my driving career by generally racing pretty clean. Standing my ground when I need to, but I've never been the kind of guy that just wrecks people on purpose. And, I generally, if you cut me a break, I'm going to cut you a break. But now, the Cup Series is not a race like that. Cup Series is you take all the time, no matter what, no matter if it's first lap, last lap, or any lap in between, for first or for 31st, you're racing your ass off. So it's been a little bit of an adjustment for me to just turn up the selfishness meter or the give and take model where you had a little bit of give and take with the old car. This car, there's all take. So when he is on the radio fired up, yeah, it's like, all right, move on. He threw a block from his pit box. He's sitting on the 7 pit box. He doesn't care what happened to everybody else. He went full Bowman Gray, big Winston-Salem guy. And you saw a little bit of that madhouse come out of him on the pit box and on the radio. So I think it's easy for the people on Reddit and the people watching the broadcast to just assume that, that whatever, whether it's malicious, whether it was intentional or not. But, unless you're in it, unless you are the one doing it and holding the controls, only and then you can, everybody's going to make their own assumptions and their own opinions. But I've come to learn that none of those opinions matter, to be honest with you.
LaJoie's right. The drivers are definitely amping up the aggression on restarts because positioning is so important in this car. And he's also correct that our opinions don't matter, but the opinions of his fellow drivers do. And based on what happened on Sunday and what Kyle Busch said afterward about LaJoie being a kamikaze, a part of me thinks this isn't over. Busch could wait for the right time and respond at some point in the future. However, based on the two-time champ's recent performances, he'll probably have an opportunity to do it sooner rather than later because the numbers 7 and 8 have been racing around each other more than anyone could have expected to start the season. All right, guys, that's a wrap on this episode. I want to hear what you think. Do you think Kyle Busch retaliates with LaJoie, or is this over? And what did you think about Kevin Harvick's remarks? First, what he had to say on Hailie Deegan making a bad career move going to Ford, his thoughts about her future prospects, and finally, what he said about the Toyotas panicking. Do you agree? Is there an engine issue going on at JGR? And lastly, what do you think about Denny Hamlin's remarks on Bubba Wallace lacking speed? Do you agree, or is it a tactic being used by Hamlin to motivate his driver? And one last item of business that I meant to take care of in the last video when I talked about Chase Elliott, but I completely forgot. I have this Chase Elliott tumbler from my friends at Rico Industries. You'll remember they participated in my Father's Day gift guide. I'm going to give away this to anyone who comments about the number 9 mug. That's all you have to say, and I'll pick a random winner by the end of this week. Good luck. Remember, if you want to read my written work, go check it out at heavy.com. And be sure to check out my Beating and Banging podcast on the Blue Wire Network. Thanks as always for supporting the channel, and have a great rest of your day.